Ooh, today I'm talking about the messy minefield that is the relationship between mums and their adult sons. Hi, my name's Christine L. Conroy. Welcome to Happy Stuff and Fluff, a channel for women who are getting happy, living longer and growing younger. And this is a much requested video going way back to when I first started to do videos on empty nest syndrome. This video is about how to navigate your way through the inevitable relationship changes with your son, whether they are leaving home to go to university, leaving home to live in an apartment of their own, or indeed, and especially probably, when they are married. So this is about, it's not about toxic relationships with sons, and nor is it about toxic relationships with daughters-in-law. I'm not touching on any of that. I know I've had lots of emails about that, and I have done a video on family estrangement. I'll leave a link down below to that too. Today I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the fact that even if, and probably especially if, you are close to your son and he's about to leave home and you have a normal, healthy relationship with your son and they've either left home or are leaving home, it is a challenge. Okay, so just let me set you up for what I'm about to say to you. Being a parent was never meant to bring you happiness. Seriously, we know from a scientific point of view that being a parent does not make you happy. It's just too stressful. It's just too stressful. So it doesn't bring you happiness. In fact, if you've watched the film Otherhood, which I think in itself is fantastic, whoever came up with that, it's just amazing because they talk, it's about the fact that you go from motherhood to when your child, in this case when your son leaves home, to something else, not quite the same as it has been before. It's otherhood, which I like very much. But in that, they say that motherhood or parenting is like inhumane emotional waterboarding. Oh, I'll say that again because you need to keep this in mind as we go along. It's like inhumane emotional waterboarding. Okay, so seriously then, being a parent where it may not bring you total happiness, what it does do, of course, is bring you moments of joy. And most importantly, it also brings purpose and meaning to your life, which of course makes a huge difference to you. And we'll be coming back to purpose and meaning later on down the line. So yes, when I said today I'm talking about you and your son, why just your son? Well, I'm going to say this dreadful saying that I heard when my boys were young, and I thought, yes, well, that's never going to happen to me because I'm so close to my sons. And it's the saying which goes something like, your daughter is your daughter for life and your son is your son until he takes a wife. We'll be talking about that. Now, the fact that this saying exists at all tells you that there is a difference between your relationship with a daughter and with a son. Now, I'm speaking here not only as a positive psychology practitioner, but also of the mother of two sons and a daughter. When I struggled with empty nest and they all three went off to university, there is for certain a difference in the way boys and girls or sons and daughters communicate with you. Okay, so it's time for me to do some straight talking, and I have to warn you, you may not like what I have to say, but remember the inhumane emotional waterboarding. Okay, so if your son is leaving home to go to university, or if he's leaving home to live in an apartment of his own, there are certain things you're going to feel. I know this not just from personal experience, but also through the research I did on empty nest for the channel. there's a likelihood that you are going to feel, to a lesser or greater degree, you're going to feel loneliness. You're going to feel, possibly you're going to feel pain. You are definitely going to feel sadness, and you may even go through feelings of grief. These are perfectly normal under the circumstances. You will feel these, but you will get through that. You will get through that. And again, I'm going to direct you to one of the empty nest videos, which I'll leave down below, where I go into a little bit more detail about how to work your way through those feelings. What I want to talk about now is, if your son has gone through university, has perhaps lived on his own for a while, and has now is now married, or even married with children, because this is where your relationship massively changes again. Because when they're going to university, they still are not completely independent of you, so they're obviously coming back during the holidays and so on. And even if they go to live on their own in an apartment, they still, you're the first port of call if they need advice in any way, or if they need any kind of help, it's you they call. Now, when your son gets married, that will change. That will change, and it has to change, because now, it's because now your son is married and his priorities have to change. His wife is now incredibly important to him, and she is likely to be the first port of call if he needs help of any kind. And of course, when they have children, they are a family unit, and their responsibility is to, first and foremost, keep that family together in order to grow their children. Okay, so that's why that's a priority. I know I don't have to explain that to you. So where does that leave you? Well, it leaves you a little bit out in the cold. There's no question about it. It's the only way to put it. It leaves you a little bit out in the cold. And unfortunately, once again, it comes down to you to accept that situation and work through it to a certain degree. Because once again, as I talked about during Empty Nest, these things are not a mother's issue alone. These things are a family issue, and maybe to a lesser extent, but your son also has a certain responsibility to you. However, the bulk of it falls down to you. You are the one who has to be flexible about the relationship and understand that you are not now the first person your son is going to come to. And again, when you think about it, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. And if that happens, you have done your job. You have done your job. It does not mean the end of your relationship. It means that your relationship is now different. Okay, so now you may have feelings such as displacement, rejection, even hurt. And you may feel that for a short time, and then you may get over that, and your relationship with your son and your daughter-in-law is wonderful, and so you move on. You may not. And if you do have those feelings of displacement and rejection and hurt, we need to do something about it, because obviously my interest in you is to increase your happiness levels. And if you are having feelings of displacement and so on, then it's obviously going to affect your happiness levels. So, what to do about it? What to do about it? 3 things that I'm going to talk about, and really this covers not just if your son is married and you're struggling with that, but with empty nest and all of those things really. The first one is open and honest communication. You need to speak to your son, and you need to explain to him that you've never been in this situation before, and you are not quite sure how to deal with it. You need to speak to him not in a needy way or in any way attacking. I think one of the first things to acknowledge to your son is that you are proud and respect how he is now an independent person, bringing up a family of his own. This is something to acknowledge that you're happy about. But then also explain that your feelings about it are something you're not used to, and let him help. Let him help you. And whilst you're there, set boundaries about, for example, what's the acceptable number of times you need to contact him in any given month, for example. I mean, if I think to my own son, my married son, who lives a distance away from us, he's got 2 small children. He and his wife both have careers of their own that they are climbing the ladder of, shall we say. He's not going to be contacting me on a daily basis to chat about his life, is he? And so you need to find a balance, and the only way to find it quickly is to ask the question. Take him out for dinner. How often? That's my answer to everything. Take them out to dinner. You are much more likely to have an in-depth conversation with your son over a dinner table with no distractions than you are picking the phone up and saying, oh, how was your week? We know already that men are far less likely to want to talk about their lives than women are. We know this. We need to have a look at that, don't we? But anyway, that's a fact. But he's more likely to do it over a dinner table. So if you can do that, that's great. And ask the question. Is once a week? Shall I phone you once a week? Can you phone me? How often is too often? Shall I come to see you? When shall I come to see you? How would he like your relationship to go moving forward? And talk about it. Talk about it. And that way, when you phone him, he's not going to look at his phone and see it's you and roll his eyes. Oh, it's my mum again. You don't want that. And nor do you want his wife to do that either. So it's a great thing to do, to openly talk about how you're feeling about it, and he needs to, you want him to understand that, and B, set boundaries for how you want the relationship to go moving forward, and then stick to those boundaries. Number 2, leading on from that, is be flexible. If he's married and you set these boundaries and then he has children, that may change. If he changes his job, he may not be as available to you to chat. So it's about being flexible, and as his life changes happen, then your relationship will obviously have to be flexible in that sense. So you need to do that. Number 3 is a biggie. In fact, if you listen to nothing else in this video, you need to listen to this. You need to establish who you are without your son. You need to establish who you are without your son, the person you are going to become without your son. And you need to create a new life without your son. You now need to create different purpose and meaning in your life to that which you received from being a parent. That's now gone, or at least changed. Now you need to create different purpose and meaning for your life going forward. Let me tell you what this does. When your son sees that you have a life of your own, oddly enough, he's more likely to want to contact you, possibly because of this thing that they don't want to constantly be talking about them. He's more likely to phone you and ask you about your life stories and what's happening in your life than he is if you are hanging on to and being dependent on his life and living your life vicariously through him. We don't want that. He's more likely to contact you. And please, just let me throw this one in. When he does phone you, please, please never, ever say anything like, oh, I thought you were dead. Or, oh, you've remembered you've got a mother then. No, please don't do anything like that, even if you're tempted to. When he does phone you, you're pleased to hear from him. Show that you're pleased to hear from him. But as I say, he's more likely to do that if you have created a life of your own, and you are more likely to be a happier, more independent person if you have a life of your own too. I know that's not easy. We talk about it all the time on Happy Stuff and Fluff. We can talk about it again. In the meantime, what I want you to watch now is this video. Not only if you may even have been through empty nest, watch this, because the things I talk about in this film, could well help you with the situation you're in with a married son. So watch this film next, and if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about with reference to this, I know we can only scratch the surface in these videos, but let me know in the comments box below, and if this film has been any help to you whatsoever, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.